They say if you want to know where your kids are at, like build the place that they want to be at.
Hey, it's another week, which means another episode of the Skid Steer Nation podcast. I am your host, Ryan Deemer. And before we introduce our guest this week, I want to take just a quick moment to, one, ask you to subscribe and share the podcast. That's how we grow. That's how we know you guys are enjoying the content we're putting out. And it just would be a nice thing to do for us. And I also want to tell you a little bit about Skid Steer Nation. Head over to skidsteernation.com. Skid Steer Nation is your home for high-quality American-made skid steer attachments. I have personally vetted all of the manufacturers, looked at the size of their shops, make sure that they can produce and maintain quality. They also put the quality of the product ahead of their profits. So I find the manufacturing process that they use, they just build stronger, durable products. They're going to last you longer. They're going to give you a better return on investment for your business. And we have quite a bit of variety of attachments. So head over to skidsteernation.com and check out your next skid steer attachment. All right, now into the episode. We have the privilege of speaking to a gentleman today. He's out in Arizona. His name is Preston. He actually owns a fabrication shop and he got into excavation work on the side. It seems to be growing for him quite well. He has a beautiful wife, and I think he just gave birth to a little girl last year. So I'm sure the work-life balance is a stress at times. So Preston, welcome to the Skid Steer Nation podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. Sholo, Arizona. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yes, yeah.
And is that northern Arizona?
It is. It's like northeast corner Arizona, up in the mountains. A lot of people don't realize that Arizona gets snow, but we do up here. We're up in the pine trees.
Yeah, I actually noticed that you're a pretty avid big game hunter also, and have taken some really cool big game. And I noticed too that you're actually doing that in Arizona.
Yeah. No, Arizona's got some really cool big game. They run a lottery, so it's a lot different than other states, especially back east, like in Iowa and such, where I've hunted before. And but yeah, I mean, there's definitely opportunities everywhere out here, and it's super exciting to hunt Arizona.
Yeah, and was that a bison that you took down?
It was. So I actually won. So Arizona does every year to raise like funds for conservation. They do a lottery or a raffle, I should say. And so you just buy raffle tickets online. You can buy them from any state, and it allows you to hunt. They do one for each big game species, and it allows you to hunt that species for the entire calendar year. So you can hunt outside of general hunting windows, but so I got really lucky and drew the bison tag for Arizona for, I think that was a year or two ago, 2021. And I got to go up on north rim of the Grand Canyon is where those bison are at, and hunting the big trees, and got a monster bison. So that was a lot of fun.
That's awesome. And then, most people probably think of Arizona as more desert and a little flatter and all that, but like you had to pack that thing out. Did you have to quarter it or?
Yeah, I mean, we, I think my lightest pack was probably 100 pounds, 105 pounds of just meat. And I took, I think 6 trips. And I mean, there were 2 other guys helping me pack it out. Like it was a process. So when we finally got up on it, I think it was maybe, I don't know, about midday, and we didn't get back to camp till I think 1 a.m. So,
oh my goodness.
It was a process, that's for sure, but it was a lot of fun. It's all part of the experience.
Absolutely, it is. But just kind of goes to show you the terrain difference in northern Arizona to what people have in their head of what Arizona typically is.
Yeah. People think cactus, and Arizona's got a whole lot of different climates. So
yeah, very nice. So you're actually fabrication background more so than excavation.
Correct. Yeah. So I mean. So to start you out, like I'm someone who just like, if I'm interested in it, I go after it. So, as a kid, I was always building Legos, Lincoln Logs, stuff like that, just building like cars, big trucks, all that stuff. So, when I started my fabrication business as a hobby is actually how it started. So I had like a welder, a small plasma table, and I was just doing, stuff for myself and buddies, cutting signs and like AR 500 targets for shooting, like just stuff I was interested in, and kind of grew it from there. Because the more I did, the more people were like, hey, like you can make money on this. And so I ended up in 2015, end of 2015 is when I actually started Bare Metal Fabrication. And I, at that point, was working for my dad, who owns a bread route. So I'd work for him from about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning until like 8 in the morning. And then I'd go to work for another local fabrication shop, and I worked for him, kind of learning the ropes. He definitely taught me a lot. And then so I worked those two jobs to kind of fund mine and get my business off the ground.
I read that and I was really intrigued by that. I mean, that's some determination, like you're sacrificing and committing to your dream. Yeah. If you're willing to work from 2:30 in the morning till
like it's something like I look back on and it's like a ton of work, but it was something I enjoyed doing. So it's not like, it wasn't really work. Like I was excited. I'd lay in bed and I'd be thinking about like, well, what can I do? What else can I learn? What else can I, build? So I just kind of grew it from there. So
no, I completely understand what you're talking about too. When I was in my 20s, I owned bars and restaurants, and we were at a 4 a.m. liquor license, but like I would start my day around 10 a.m., which everyone was like, oh, late starter. I'm like, yeah, I didn't get home till 4 or 5 in the morning though. So I'm still only getting 4 or 5 hours sleep. But I mean, I did it 5-6 days a week, and I thought nothing of it just because I enjoyed doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's drastic how your mindset makes the day go by.
Yeah, it sure is. So, but yeah, I mean, growing from there, like I got into dirt work because like we started doing a lot of fencing on the fabrication side. So like an auger, like in Arizona, like you can't really dig very well with a shovel. I mean, you're just hitting rock, and like it's hard ground most of the time. So like I got an older skid steer, started with a real old, well, it wasn't real old, but it was like a 98 863 Bobcat, and got an auger attachment for it. And then I ended up getting like a flip mount to where I could put a cement mixer bowl on that auger. And so then we'd be able to set our fence posts a lot quicker and not break our backs doing it. So that's kind of how I got into it. And then since I had it, I was like, well, shoot, I could, I'm interested in dirt work and all that stuff. I can make money using just this piece of equipment. So I've kind of grown it on the dirt work side a lot slower, just because fabrication's taken a lot of my time. But here lately, it's just been blowing up. So.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, is like a lot of customers or a lot of people you meet, like they start dividing their attention between two businesses or two different areas for their business.
Right.
And like in order to grow one, the other one suffers. And then you were very deliberate to not do that.
Yeah. Like I got to a point, I bought an excavator, and, I was telling my wife, I'm like, oh man, like we're going to use this all the time. I'm going to be always running it. And then like we ended up getting it, and it was sitting for a while. And, Megan's like, oh, you bought this expensive excavator and it just sits in our yard, it's yard art. And, fortunately through the fabrication business, like it wasn't sitting because I didn't have the work. It was sitting because I had too much work on the fabrication side, and it just took all my time. But, since then I've worked towards putting the right people in my company in the right places to where it takes time off my shoulders and allows me to go out and basically make more money, chase more work.
Yeah. Leveraging other people's time is like the key to owning a good business.
It sure is. It's been hard to learn. But we're definitely, we've got an amazing crew right now. Like for the first time, since 2015, when I've had, different people helping me and stuff, like I feel like I've got a crew that I can rely on and trust. And that's huge. Being able to walk away and know that like your shop's not going to burn down because you turned your back. So,
yeah. How did that, like you said, it took you a while to learn. Is like, was this all learning on the fly, or did you have a mentor in your area?
Yeah. I mean, I do like business coaching and stuff. So I've kind of, especially the past like 2 years, I've really been focused on like getting the people who are doing what I'm doing, or have done what I've done that, do a good job at it, like established companies that are willing to, talk with me. Like a lot of times, and guys don't understand it, like these big businesses and people who have done this, for a while in your industry, like they're like waiting to share their knowledge with you. You know, it's not something that they're too good to share their knowledge. They're like happy to help. You just got to ask. So, I mean, I've grown a lot in business just by like not being afraid to ask questions or look stupid because I didn't ask, an educated question, I guess. So,
Yeah, that's some great advice. In fact, I remember when I think I was in college, so I'm dating myself. It goes back to the 90s. I read a story about a guy, and he was like a teenager just getting out of high school, and he'd sent letters to like 20 CEOs of Fortune 500 companies.
mhm.
And the only ask was their knowledge. It wasn't for a job. It wasn't for anything. It was just their knowledge. And he had like 5 or 6 of them actually respond. And like he's working with these CEOs of these large companies all through college. And when he gets out of college and starts his business, he actually got 2 of the CEOs to be on his board of directors. And it just goes to show, like you're saying, like they're dying to share their knowledge.
Sure.
They just don't want strings attached.
Right. Well, and a lot of these guys, like just like myself, like I'm so interested in it. Like if you pick the right topic, they're going to start sharing knowledge with you just because they're interested in it. Like they enjoy talking about it. So,
No,
but
it's totally key. Learning to hire the right people, or are you hiring the right people, or are you nurturing lower level members of your team and building them up to put them in higher level positions?
so a little bit of both. I've had success both ways and definitely failures both ways. I'm not necessarily looking really hard when I hire at the skill because like I can teach pretty much anybody to weld. I mean, honestly, it's not rocket science. If you have the core values that we're looking for, like around here, like just showing up on time, like that's a big one. I'm sure that's huge everywhere. Like just getting someone who's going to show up and like actually care about what they're doing, like taking pride in their work. If you can find somebody like that, you can literally teach them to do anything because it's just like me, like they're excited to jump in a skid steer, jump in an excavator, dump truck, whatever. They're interested in it. They want to learn more about it, and you're providing that knowledge. I mean, obviously, you gotta at least pay somewhat decent rates, but I don't think it's as hard hiring as everybody thinks. I just think that they need to be looking for the right attributes.
I 1,000% agree. We always coach that you need to hire for desire,
mm-hmm.
and then find the right qualities that fit with the culture you're building.
Right.
Because skill, like you said, skill can be taught to anybody.
Yeah. So, and then, I've had a lot of success too with, bringing my guys in, or just even like when I'm working with them on a project, just talking to them like, hey, like what do you think about, what you're doing for the company? Like, is there something that you don't know that you want to learn? Is there something you see me doing that you're interested in? And just kind of having organic conversations, and you learn a lot on like what their interests are. You can kind of help put them in the right position to where they're going to grow and want to stay with the company, but they're also making you money because they're doing what they're interested in.
Yeah. I like that you expand your list of questions for that. Because I mean, you see it time and time again. It's been done to me. I'm sure I've done it to somebody in my past, but you always ask like that first question, like, how do you feel about the company and what you're doing? And you kind of get that deer in the headlight look, like everything's great, boss. Thanks. And like by expanding that question base, you can actually get their mind to start thinking like, oh, what have I watched you do that I like? Or, oh, what job have I been like kind of looking around at the shop that I wish I knew how to do? And I think that expansion of questions, and more leaders need to embrace that, or more business owners.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, for example, like just literally last week, I did this with all my guys, brought them in, and one of my guys in particular, I was looking to hire somebody for a position that we, just are in need of. And one of the guys was like, hey, like, I really like doing that. And I was like, wow, I had no clue. Like I was looking at, working to push him in a different direction. And he's like, no, I enjoy doing weld out and stuff. So I'm looking to give him more of that time and more of that knowledge in that area. And now I don't have to hire for that because I've got a guy that's already got our core values, is interested in learning that. So it just kind of works out, and it's definitely a good thing to, just have conversations with your guys.
No, I absolutely. they shield so many of the negatives that you don't see because you're not around, and then they, they don't share what they really want to do. So, like as an owner, like everything looks like everything's great, and in reality, like part of it's on fire in the back end.
Right. So
you've brought up core values like 2 or 3 times.
mm-hmm.
Did you have to go through a process to develop your business core values? Or like, what did that look like for you?
I would say the process is a lot of just like learning the hard way, like learning. I think I figured out what I don't want for my company long before I figured out some things that I do want, and through trial and error of just having different people work for me, I learned a lot, for one, about being a leader, and you can't lead every person the same way. You not that you talk to people differently, but like people respond differently to how you lead them. So, like some guys don't respond to getting a kick in the butt, like, hey, let's go, let's knock this project out. And other guys, like, they thrive on that, like some guys thrive on goals. Some guys, are money driven. Other guys are more looking to like the appreciation. So, but yeah, I think I just found more so what I didn't want in my employees and my culture, long before I figured out like what works for us.
And that's great advice. In fact, I was taught that same method by a guy. Like he's like, hey, just look at what you don't want your business to be, or look at traits and people that you don't like to be associated with, right. And your values are the exact opposite of that.
Yeah. So
because it's really hard sometimes to like think about what means something to you.
Yeah.
But it's really easy to point out what you don't like in other businesses, other people.
Exactly.
So sometimes it's easier to make that list, and then like from that you can create the list of what's actually important to you and start building your foundation for your business the right way.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's awesome. So 2015 rock and roll, and 2022 comes, the little girl gets introduced to the world.
Yeah.
How does life change as a business owner that is obviously outgoing and very involved with the little girl at home?
So, it's, I'm real fortunate. My wife's a realtor, so she kind of sets her own schedule. So she's been able to really like take that workload, I suppose, off of me. Like, not that I'm not around, but she's just able to be a lot more flexible, and that's really helped. But yeah, I mean, like, I like what I thought parenthood would be is like totally different than what it is. I mean, it's the hardest thing to walk out the door every morning when she's like running up behind me, like, hey, kind of screaming at me to pick her up and stuff like that. But it's also the best feeling when I come home that she's like right there bringing me a book to read to her, or, just like excited to see me. So, it's been good. It's been awesome having my own company, just because I am, essentially working like really close to the house. So I get to go in and have lunch with Megan and Sadie, and like just be around. So it's been fun. It's definitely been challenging, like when she's not feeling good and she don't sleep through the night, like you don't either. So, but still got to get up and get work done.
Yeah. And then like, do you find that you prioritize like creating more time to spend with the family over anything else now? Or are you still in, I want to keep growing this so I can have time later with them? Or where are you at with that journey?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's definitely been something I've been working on, recently, is like, I'm trying to build the company. So like, especially when she gets a little bit older and if she's interested in sports, like we have the funds and the know-how to like, hey, like you're into softball, great, let's build you a batting cage and have fun with it. And like Megan and I are really looking to, at a personal level, like build the place that they say, if you want to know where your kids are at, like build the place that they want to be at. So that's, looking towards the future, that's what I'm trying to do, is have, obviously the funds to do so, and the know-how to do it. And, but yeah, I mean, like, taking vacations has never been a priority for me in the past. And when I say vacation, it doesn't mean like, going to Disneyland, but just like taking time like that hasn't been a priority for me in the past. So like now I'm really pushing, especially lately, to like schedule more time to, like, even if it's just a trip, to go camping or whatever, just like smaller trips along with, some actual vacations. So
Yeah.
I'm definitely trying to prioritize that more. But I suppose to answer your question, I have been more focused on like the tail end and like I think what Sadie will remember, having me around for versus like right now. Like I don't want to miss out on now, but I feel like that time a little bit further down the road will be more influential on her than it is now.
Yeah. No, and I get it. And that's a tough balance because you could easily probably work 12, 14 hours a day if you wanted to.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, work never stops coming in the door. So you got to be the one that says like, hey, no, we open at this time, we close at this time. That's
Yeah. And like set some boundaries and some priorities.
like we've got the business phone. It's still a cell phone, but it sits in the office. And when our office goes home for the day at 4:30, then it's sitting there. So versus it used to be in the past, my personal phone. So we'd be getting calls at all hours of the day.
Yeah. That's fantastic, man. Is that business phone, the cell phone, is that for both businesses, the side business and for the fabrication, or?
Yeah, so that runs pretty much everything. I mean, my dump trucks and stuff, they run, they run that number on the side of it. They even say Bare Metal Fabrication. Like everything's all BMF, Bare Metal Fab, kind of together.
Okay. And speaking of dump trucks,
Mm-hmm.
you drop $250,000 on a dump truck.
Yes, sir.
You've never driven one in your life, and you had to go watch videos on YouTube.
Yeah, so being that I was in like doing dirt work and stuff on the side, we're doing more and more of it. And like, our local pits during the summer, like it's just so busy in our area that like they tell you for one load of rock, like 3 to 4 weeks out, if not more. And when you're trying to schedule with that and you don't know exactly when your material's coming, it makes it hard. So I knew there was an immediate need for it. And I just started asking around. And then once again, with fabrication side of it, I work with a ton of contractors. So I started asking them like, hey, theoretically, if I had a dump truck, would you guys use me to haul your material? And, most of them like, yeah, we'd give you a shot, especially if you can get it quicker than 3 or 4 weeks. So I knew there was a need there, and I started looking. And like I say, being the type of person that I am, I went and looked at like 2 trucks, found that I could order one, and I just did it. Like I just went for it. So at that point, like I was, already like laying in bed at night, up in the morning, like anytime I had, just researching dump trucks, the maintenance side of it, because I'm very involved with maintaining my own stuff. But like, so like just how-to videos, like YouTube was huge. I looked up how to run a dump truck business, when do you put, your pusher axles up and down, like all that stuff. I didn't know anything about them. Knew how to drive a semi or a, manual transmission, but like that doesn't really pertain to everything in the dump truck business. So I did that, and then I reached out to like who's now one of my competitors, but super cool guy. His name's Michael Lavery. He runs for Hatch Industries locally here, and I just reached out to him and like, hey, like, can I take you to lunch? And like, I'd love to pick your brain about dump trucks. And he's like, well, I'm super busy, but he's like, why don't you come jump in the truck with me? So I got that opportunity, and I mean, pretty much I rode with him for about a half day. And the whole time, I mean, I'm just asking question after question after question, and he just kept giving me information. And like I say, super cool guy. Still talk to him today. We actually ran for him, helping him out Monday. So it's been great. So
yeah, and it seems to be a recurring theme with everything we talk about, though, like that ability to ask for help and get asked for questions from people that know more than you. And I love that, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's if that's one thing that people can take away from like this podcast from me is like, don't be afraid to ask. Like, and it always comes back to that feeling you had like in high school or whatever, where teacher asks you a question, you think you know it, but you don't want to answer, you don't want to raise your hand. like that fear of like looking stupid. I think you just kind of got to toss that out the window because like who cares? Like ask what you want to know so you can grow as a person and as a business in my case.
Yeah.
So it just, yeah,
And and I think I want to expand on it just a smidge. Like if you're still struggling with that thought process, just remember that there's a skill set or something that you have that
that's
you
right.
could be a provider of information to somebody else.
Exactly.
And we can't be great at everything.
Right.
So just because you don't know this topic doesn't mean you're an idiot or ignorant. You're just ignorant on that topic, which means you haven't learned it yet. Where
Right.
you're not stupid, because somebody could come to you for advice on a completely different topic and you would be their mentor.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. You know, and that's one thing with like YouTube, like kind of stemming from that, like you don't want to look stupid. Like there's so much information out there that's not from from a person, like it's just on YouTube. So, you know, like just like I say, how-to videos, all that type of stuff. You know, there's so much information out there. Like, don't be afraid to look for it, because most of the time you can find it for free.
Yeah, you can get a full education with the internet today. The hard part is knowing what to look for and then digging through all that to make sure that it's exactly the topic you're trying to get covered.
Right.
I'm sure you watched a lot of videos on dump trucks with a specific thing in mind you were looking for, and like that video didn't quite cover it the way you needed it to. So you had to go watch a second or a third.
Right. But then you learn something else.
Yeah.
So,
But we have 7-second attention spans, Preston. Why would we want to watch 3 videos on something?
that's right.
I mean, a goldfish can pay attention longer than an American can these days.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So yeah, that whole learn as you go, like you kind of took that same approach with the excavation business, right? Like I think you've done quite a few jobs where you just had to like learn on the fly. And
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, I mean, pretty much since I started, like, you know, when I started, I was 18 or 19 years old in fabrication, and then growing up from there, like people look at you and they're like, you know, you're the owner, like you're the guy that's supposed to do railing for me or whatever the project is. So, but you know, I research and research and research and then get the information or talk to people who know what they're doing to where I could learn it. And then you kind of just got to go out. Like, I shouldn't say that this approach isn't for everybody, but for how I've done it, like I will find something that someone asked me to do and like, yeah, I'm interested in that. And they'll ask me, hey, can you do it? And it's like, well, I'm going to learn how to do it, you know? So we'll give them a bid. And if it all works out, we end up learning, you know, most of the time we haven't had too much bad luck or anything like that. Like as far as learning the hard way. But no, I mean, it's been good. It's been fun.
yeah. And again, like that whole approach you're taking, that whole learning on the fly, it's just not being afraid of failure, because to you, a failure is just learning a way to improve upon,
Yeah.
so you can do it
There you
right.
go. Learn how not to do it, you know?
Yeah. Kind of bouncing around here a little bit, but
No worries.
you talked about, you know, you have 6 employees now and 1 part-timer.
Mhm.
One of the things I really wanted to ask you is like, were you afraid to hire that first employee?
You know, I was, yeah. It's like the type of person I am, I was afraid to hire. I've been afraid to hire like as we've, you know, 1 and then go to 2 and then 3 and then 4. So like every stage of the way, it's still like you have that fear in your mind, like, you know, what happens if business dies down? Because I'm not the type that's just going to say, well, like, here's your paycheck, go find somewhere else to work. You know, I took that kind of as a personal responsibility, especially with my first guy that I hired. Like, you know, that's now my responsibility to make sure that they can provide. You know, like we're collectively obviously providing for my business and my family, but now it's also my responsibility to make sure that we're providing as a team for his family as well, or her family. So that was kind of a hard hurdle to get over, but at the same time, like if you want to grow in business, you can't do it all yourself.
Yeah. So did you have to look for outside counsel for guidance to actually be comfortable pulling the trigger, or did you have a conversation with yourself? What did that look like?
Yeah, I mean, it just, you know, over a little bit of time, like talking with my wife, Megan, talking with my parents, stuff like that. My grandparents have been instrumental in, they haven't ever really owned like, service-based businesses like this, but just very smart people. And they've always been able to look at problems or stuff that I talk to them about and in a really neutral way and kind of give me that outside feed. So because once again, because of the type of person I am, I'm just like driven to go, this is what I see. Sometimes I have blinders on. And when you can get people that you trust, but someone that can get you a neutral perspective on it and kind of give you the facts versus their opinion, it's helped me a lot make decisions like that. So, but like I say, at the end of the day, when I talk to like my contractors and they're like, hey, we could not book another job and we'd have houses to build for the next 2 years. It gives you some sense of job security. Also having like enough in your, your working capital to where, hey, if I don't get paid, I can still pay my guys. I can still pay my bills, which we've had to learn the hard way a couple times, but it's just kind of how it goes in business.
I think if anyone who's ever owned a business, they've had that monthly debate of who do we pay first, ourselves or the the business bills, because it's welcome to life. Like it's not a straight curve upwards. Like there's some troughs in there.
Exactly.
And then the last question on the employees that I wanted to ask you too, like as you've gotten now 6, 7 guys, you've probably been through 20 or so, I'm going to guess, hiring, releasing or quitting, whatever.
Sure.
How do you maintain like your culture and like your quality control, your standards, all of that as you continue to grow the team?
Kind of by shifting some of that weight to their shoulders, like those guys want to work with other guys that are like them or like-minded, I could say. So, like I work everything in my business is we're a team. Like it's not I'm the boss and you're the employee. It's like, hey, we're both team members and we have this job that we can work together to get done. So, even when we have mistakes, like I'm not really concerned about who made the mistake. It's how are we going to work as a team to fix it? Because at the end of the day, like you can't go back in the past. Like you just got to move forward and fix it. So, I think just the culture that I continue to try to build and strive for, I think it's just what the guys that I'm working with also value. So, when you do get someone who I would say like slips past my initial questions and isn't in line with those values, they stand out pretty quick.
Yeah.
So,
and are you quick to cut the cord on that?
I'm quick to like talk to those people about that. Like, hey, like, what happened in this situation? Like, and I start asking more questions, I suppose, and trying to have more organic conversations with them so I can really understand, for one, like what I missed. And then, like, are they willing to kind of work with us to be more in line with our values? Or are they just like, no, like screw that. I'm just here for the money. And, a lot of times I find that they just kind of weed themselves. Like I don't even think I've ever had to fire. I think I had to fire like 1 or 2 people that I actually like fired. Everybody else just kind of seems to like naturally, it's almost like they feel like, hey, I don't fit in here. Like this isn't me. So they just kind of move on by themselves.
On their own.
Yeah.
I've heard stories of guys, in the excavation industry specifically, where they let that guy linger longer than they should. Sure. And then all the other guys in the team, their values like start to lower.
Yeah. Right.
And it just kind of erode. Like it's crazy how one guy can erode a small crew of 7 from the inside.
Yeah. No, I mean, like I said, I've had, we're obviously on the smaller end as far as employees, but I've had pretty good luck so far. Like I feel like being open and honest with your crew allows them to do the same with you. And, as long as you're somewhat aware of what's going on and what's happening, like, I don't think it's too hard to catch. So, but
Yeah.
I'm definitely not someone who's quick to be like to give them the boot and get out the door, because I do care about people. Like, hey, when they made that decision to come work for me, like, what happens if I kick them out the door? Like, where are they going to go? So I do think about that. Obviously, you got to be, the company still has to have, like, how do I put this? Like, the company still has to be first, but I'm not one of those type of people that's just gonna like, hey, like you're replaceable. I don't
Yeah.
view people.
No,
So
I get that. I get that a lot. You just see those guys that get try 7, try 8, try 10. And you're like, obviously it's not working. Like, I don't know why
right.
you as an owner continue to try to put the round square,
Yep. Yeah.
in the
I
round
get you.
hole, the square peg in the round hole. So if a guy's out there listening, he's got an excavation company, he's got 2 or 3 guys, he wants to buy another piece of equipment, which isn't required to hire 1 to 2 more employees. What's the best advice you have for him?
How I've done it is I've made sure I had the work first. So, like, well, and I shouldn't say that because I didn't do that with dump trucks, but, I did enough research to know that that need was there. So, I guess my piece of advice would be make sure that you can make, like, if you're not buying it outright, make sure you can make the payment on it. Make sure you're aware, like around here, a lot of businesses fail because I don't know if it's they think like, hey, it's Arizona, like it's 12 seasons of making money or 12 months of making money. Like that's not how it is. Like we budget specifically in my dump truck company, we budget for our trucks to sit 4 to 5 months a year, like with nothing, like they just sit in the yard. That's a heavy expense. So if you're not paying attention to that, you're gonna lose. So I would just make sure that your finances are in order, you can actually afford what you're looking at doing, and make sure you have at least the knowledge of there being work there, or you have the work lined up to go get that piece of equipment.
I think every piece of that is great advice.
Yeah, thank you.
Great advice. We have a philosophy where it's like sell it before you buy it. Like if you want to buy a forestry mulching head, go sell 5 land clearing jobs.
Right.
Even if you have to rent it for 1 or 2, just a proof of concept, you're basically doing your market research. You're building the demand for it before you're dropping $30,000-$40,000 on equipment.
Sure. Yeah. No, I mean, like I say, research, like how I did with the dump trucks. Like I talked to everybody. I called, all the different plants. I got meetings with some of the pits. A lot of that's just having relationships with the people in your industry that can put you in touch with the right people. But definitely know that there's a need for it. If you see 100 pieces of equipment that you want to buy rolling down the street, you might want to think about like, hey, is this the right piece, or should I look at doing something that nobody else is doing?
Yeah.
So
no, absolutely. And so you've got the fabrication business, the dump truck business, and the excavation business.
Correct.
They all run under the same LLC.
Yeah, for the time being, they do. That's actually something we're currently working on is splitting that apart. We had a dump truck. Actually, my first dump truck was a 2022 Mac, brand new. It got rolled, so total loss. We made out okay on it. We're going to carry on and keep doing it, but that was an eye opener for me. Is like just making sure there is no gray area. You know what you need to have as far as insurance wise, and you're just legit. But yeah, I mean, with that, we're working on like splitting that apart. So in the event of that being even worse tragedy, like and my driver and everything, he made it out okay. He definitely had some cuts and bruises and dislocated shoulder, but thankfully nobody else was involved in it, but that could have been so much worse. And that really got me thinking about like, well, hey, like I need this to like one mistake or thing happening that I'm not in control of. I don't want that to change the entire company. Like that affects a lot of people. So we're looking at splitting like everything apart business wise, just to kind of get
and when you say splitting it, are you like looking at splitting each division into its own company, or are you looking at dividing the assets from the operating business? Like, how are you looking at that approach? How are you taking that approach?
Probably separate businesses.
Okay.
Like how we're looking at doing it is like splitting my dump trucks aside from fabrication. Like what we do in fabrication, like yes, I own both, but they don't have any ties to each other. Like I don't use a dump truck for anything I do in fabrication. I don't do, I mean, other than like repairing dump trucks, my own trucks with fabrication stuff, I don't, there's no ties together. So we can pretty much split them apart and just have them be two separate, which is how we run them. Like accounting wise, it's two separate businesses. It's just not, it's all ran under the same LLC.
Yeah.
So that's the only split we have left to make.
Yeah.
So,
and I'll be honest with you, like I saw a post on your Facebook page, like the kind of numbers that you're hitting at the end of last year.
yeah,
And it might be time. This is my own 2 cents.
sure.
It might be time for you to start asking like about switching from an LLC to an S corp.
Oh, we are S corp.
You are an S corp. Okay.
Yeah, we are an S corp. Yeah.
Never mind then. I'll be quiet. Yeah, because you get to that certain level, because like an LLC, for everyone out there listening that doesn't know this, like it just rolls right down to your personal taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Like after all your expenses are made, whatever money's in that bank account just rolls right down to your income.
Right.
With an S corp, you can pay yourself a reasonable salary and then take dividends throughout the year as disbursements. And it just minimizes. You can actually save money on the back end taxes.
Yeah, for sure.
As you start to get successful. So if you're hitting a number where your taxes start to get a little egregious as an LLC, go talk to your attorney about the benefits of an S corp.
There you go.
Yeah, and then you're talking. One of the things you okay. Before I move forward, I want to make a note. I'm finding a really strong connection with you based on your values, because we keep talking about values and all that. But I loved when you filled out the answer about that dump dump truck that rolled.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was zero agitation or anger in it. And the first comment you made was that thankfully my employee was fine, just a few minor cuts and scrapes. Like the concern for him way outweighed the $250,000 for the truck.
Oh, sure. No, I mean, and there's, like I got that call and, I'd been teasing him about, because normally I get a call and it's like, hey, I got a nail in his tire. We run tire pressure monitors, so we always know when there's a nail in the tire. But like in the dump truck business, that's like tires. We stock new tires. We stock all the like one of my service trucks is like just ready to go to change a tire wherever it's at. But he just had, I think we pulled like 4 nails, like 4 different times. He's calling me like, hey, I got another nail in the tire. So, I answered that phone call and it's not him, but I answer and I'm like, hey, you got another nail in the tire, kind of like teasing him. And, it's somebody else like, hey, like your driver just rolled the truck. Like, we're helping pulling him out of the truck. And that feeling, like my heart just sunk like that. I didn't even drive. And of course I had to drive like 45 minutes. So there's all those emotions while you're driving up to the scene. And, I had to drive past the scene of the truck to go see him at the hospital. And it was just tough. Like I wasn't worried about the truck, equipment can be replaced, but just seeing it, because how I started, I drove that truck and I still fill in, here and there. And like the emotions that hit me were just weird because, I was so thankful that he was okay, but also knowing that like that could have been me. That could have easily been me in that truck. So, I mean, like I say, he ended up like, I don't know how. I mean, I'll have to send you some pictures, but I mean, the top of the cab was touching the steering wheel.
Oh my goodness.
And I mean, thankfully he was wearing a seatbelt and I mean, God was watching over him, that's for sure. Cause he was assisted, but he was able to climb out of that truck himself. So,
yeah, that's got to be quite the array of emotions that you feel throughout that whole hour and a half or more. Mm-hmm. And then one of the areas of your business, and I like to talk about this because it makes people realize that they're not alone in this, but like I don't know if you're struggling is the right word or not, but one of the areas of the business that you say that you're focused on improving or you're not doing it to the level you want it to be at is vetting potential customers.
Mm-hmm.
So what type of issues have you seen with the current process? And then what are some ideas that you're looking at to implement and improve that process?
So, I mean, from, it's a real struggle for me because when I started, like anything that came through the door, I'll take it. Like that's work, that's money on the table. Like it didn't matter who you are, what you said, like I will take the work. And so like trying to transition out of that, like one of the things we did is like security doors. Like I don't build security doors anymore. I used to do a ton of those. And, I just kind of realized running numbers, like they don't make any money. I don't like doing them. Generally, if you're going to get a call back for like a repair and adjustment or something like that, it's going to be a security door. So they're just kind of a pain in the butt. And I was like, well, I don't have to do these. That was something through listening to like your podcast and a couple other podcasts and talking to people. It's like, you need to pick, like you say, you need to niche down. And so it just kind of, at some point, it just kind of clicked that like, hey, like I need to narrow down. But so we've been working more on like, I don't need every customer, but how do you pick them? So, and then we have, it seems like the people that it's like, hey, like, they'll give you a story and it's like, all right, well, like I'm gonna try and help you out. I'll give them a good price or do a smaller job than we would normally do. And then those ones just end up like I end up basically paying them to do their job because, they just seem to be problem customers. You have the people that are never happy, never, so that's what we're trying to figure out is like, how do we weed those customers out? Those ones that are like always going to be looking for a way to not pay you or get more than what you quoted them for, and try and like sneak in extra stuff. So, and I think we're doing all right at it, but that was something I put on there just knowing from your podcast that you've kind of developed and work on. So I figured I could get maybe a couple tips from you. So.
Yeah, because like you talked about creating a customer questionnaire, and I guess you never know until you try it, right? But sometimes I wonder if like a questionnaire creates too much friction between you and a customer that doesn't have a relationship with you yet.
Sure. Yeah.
Like, like we do the questionnaire for the podcast and we send it to a lot more people than actually fill it out. So I'm looking at this like, all right, is this a friction point or what? So I'm doing some adjustments on that. But more than anything is like, write out that list of pre-qualifying questions. Like what's important, like, you get the basics. Where are you at? What are you looking to do? Is this a final phase of the project or the first phase? Is there any projects, anything coming up after this that we need to be aware of so it's done in the right position? Do you have some sort of a budget and a time frame? And then just keep digging deeper and deeper into that. And you're going to hear customers. And you're going to be like, this guy's tire kicking or he's not ready to pull the trigger. And then the other thing is like really defining the scope of work when you do move forward with the estimate.
They're not hard.
And then like having them sign off on the estimate and the scope of work. So that way, if they do come back saying, oh, you didn't clear that other acre over here. And you're like, well, that wasn't on the quote.
Right.
Oh, well, I thought it was. I'm like, well, you signed off on it. We walked through it thoroughly. So.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a tough line. It's a really big, tough line about like, we feel for people, right? It's like they need something or whatever. So you want to help take care of them. And then it bites you in the ass. Yeah. Then you don't want to take care of anybody. And I don't know if there's like a set solution for that. I mean, because it's, you can just set a strict line of who you are, what you charge, and there's no discounts.
Right.
But can you sleep at night with yourself?
Sure. Yeah.
Because, Grandma Mary's driveway is in utter bad repair.
Right. Yeah.
So like in certain situations, like in my opinion, I tell guys all the time with those small jobs like that, and like, they're going to become a problem. I'm like, man, just go do it. Like, just go grade the old lady's driveway and use it for marketing for your business as community give back or things like that. Because if you didn't charge her any money, she can't complain about anything.
Sure.
So if it's going to be a $300 job or whatever, and you're like, I don't want to do this, but I want to help her out. I always tell guys, just do it and then figure out how to leverage it for marketing as good, good faith within the community and helping people around you. People read that, you might pick up a $10,000 job from it.
Yeah.
And it minimizes the headaches and the callbacks because she didn't pay any money.
Right. I can see that.
But yeah, and in the list of questions, I mean, we're working on a list right now for the guys we work with. It's like 30 questions long, and it's not meant for you to ask all 30. It's meant for you to build your 10.
Sure.
And just keep adapting them. But like, put pen to paper, Preston, write them out, get used to them. when I started that new program, Groundbreaking Growth, I had a 7-page script that I tried to follow, and it just made the first call, which obviously went bad because the first time you ever do anything is bad, but it just made the learning curve of improvement so much faster. And now I don't even need to use it because it's dialed in. But if I hire a sales guy, we've got something we can hand over as a roadmap of how to do that. So as you continue to grow and you start letting people answer the phone and do estimates, now you've got it documented. Here's the pre-qualifying question. Here's the estimating process that we use for our company. Here's the things they have to sign off on. Here's how we do our sales process. And so while improving your business today, you're building a training manual for the next guy that's going to take the job.
Sure. Yeah. And then I literally in the last 2 weeks, that's what I've been working on, and learning that I need to do is once again, I can't do everything. So getting basically to where as you go through people, or if you do have someone who's not going to take that position, you don't have to keep retraining everything. So that's actually what I've been working on is I don't want to call them scripts, but basically hey, this is a defined description of what you need to do, what your job description is, what, how we answer phone calls, what information we get from them, all that type of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. In fact, we actually went through that with the people that work for our company. We actually went back and made employment agreement forms, which basically outline their title, the position, the roles, the activities, all of that. And then we both signed off on it. And it does one, it did two things for me. One, it makes them buy in, saying, all right, this is the role that I'm committing myself to do for this company.
Right.
But two, it made me sit down and clearly define what the role of a welder is, what the role of the office manager is, what the role of the truck driver is. Yep. Is it the truck driver's responsibility to grease everything in the morning before it leaves, or was it maintenance job the night before?
Right. No, and that's huge too, because it's how can you on the back end of that, how can you take any disciplinary action if they didn't know that was in their job?
Right.
That's something that I've worked with or experienced here, is just hey, they didn't know they were supposed to do it. So how can I get mad that they didn't do it? So that's one thing I've, you learn as you go. And that's just something we're currently learning is we need to be more specific on what exactly everybody's supposed to be doing, how we work as a team, and how we communicate with each other so that everybody can do their job more efficiently.
And then you being the personality type that you are, I will tell you, this has worked really, really well for me. And I think it's something that you could implement into yourself. But I took on it's called, I think Jocko Willink defined it as extreme ownership. When even people on your team do something wrong, it's your fault. You're in charge of that. So whenever one of my employees or team members fails, the first question I've been training my brain is, where did I not provide them with the information, the skills, the training, something that they thought this was correct to do?
Right.
And so what I find is that, one, I'm not angry, because being angry doesn't help get to the problem, make it improve. I mean, it doesn't do anything. It just makes a toxic work environment. And then two, we can have a clear conversation hey, is this a mistake that's a one-off? And you're just having a really bad day, your wife's thinking about leaving you and you just weren't thinking? Or is it a process problem where you didn't know or didn't have the skills or the training?
Yeah.
Because you might tell a guy, hey, go out there and move the skid steer to behind the building and wash it with the pressure washer. Well, maybe the guy's never driven the skid steer and doesn't know how to start the pressure washer.
There you go. Yeah.
So again, taking that ownership, you know what? That's my fault. I should have never asked you to do that job without the training on the machines. And it just makes the people that you work with even happier, and they're okay with making mistakes because it's not going to be the end of the world ass chewing.
Sure. Yeah.
But and it makes me reflect on what we currently have in place for employees. And if you start seeing a trend in mistakes, I'm all right, this is a top priority of redefining this process, building something out for them, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing that I heard from a guy, and I can't get it out of my head, is put the solution to wherever the problem is. It's he literally has stickers on everything, right where the problem happens. It's if you're using your CNC machine, if the guy always constantly is doing the same thing wrong, he's got a sticker right there with what to do. instead of saying, well, it was in the manual book. He's like, no, put it where the problem's at. Like put the solution where the problem's at.
Yeah. That's a good idea. I like that.
Yeah. Oh, that was good, man. That was good. We're encroaching on an hour here, Preston. And if you want to keep chatting, I'm wide open to it, but I always like to be respectful of your guys' time. I mean, you're running a business, trying to grow a business, and you got a baby at home. So I don't want to take up too much of your day.
Yeah, no worries. No, I look forward to the opportunity to do this with you. That's for sure. So, like you say, it's just being able to talk with like-minded people and, obviously you're in the industry, but in a different side of it, you can pick up different tips and, just once again, just relationships are everything in business. So the more people you can talk to and know, who knows when we'll meet up again in the future.
Yeah, so. You're absolutely right. And if you ever need anything, we're just a message away or a phone call away, and we might do the same thing back to you. I mean, I might catch something that you do in 6 months or a year from now and be like, hey man, you got to do another podcast. That was pretty cool. Let's talk about that. So,
okay.
So awesome. Well, Preston, thanks so much for joining us today. If you're listening again, please subscribe or share it. You got social media, you got the platforms that you're listening to get notifications. We got new ones coming out. We also have videos on YouTube of all the videos, so you can subscribe to the YouTube channel if you want. And if you're struggling in your business, you're trying to grow, and you feel like you're just hitting a wall sometimes, or you just aren't confident in the decisions you're making, and if you like the way that we have been talking throughout these podcast episodes, go visit groundbreakinggrowth.com. It is the coaching and consulting business specifically for excavation industry. Schedule a call to learn more about it. That call will be directly with me, and we'll see if we're a good fit. But I will guarantee you that you will leave that conversation better than when you got on. So until next week, guys, keep working hard and keep your hands on the sticks.